MOTO GUZZI is back in South Africa for good, and that's pretty good news if you're a bloke of my sort of age. If you're under the age of 30, probably not so important. But honestly, MOTO GUZZI, these guys used to be the premier superbike builders of their day back in the 1960s and 70s. MOTO GUZZI began operations just over 91 years ago, and from humble beginnings, it grew into a technical leader. The use of a wind tunnel, the first ever V8 bike, all these showed that this was a factory to be reckoned with. The last 40 years haven't been plain sailing, but they still managed to produce great bikes like the V7, now reborn as the V7 RACER. So as you can see, there used to be something of a powerhouse of a manufacturer, but that's not the case anymore, really. They're a much smaller Italian kind of niche brand, and they've nearly been out of business a few times in the last decade or two as well, but it's good to see them back. They've only got a range of about 4 or 5 bikes, of which so far, only 2 have made it to South Africa. But to be fair, those 2 models are the best in the range. I mean, check this out. The V7 RACER harks back to the original of the 1970s. Absolutely beautiful, but I'll show you the details of that later on. There's also another important one, and that's the Stelvio. Adventure bike. Sounds like hard work. So I invited Biker Say's Donovan Faree to do the work for me.
Now this is real fun. What we've got here is MOTO GUZZI Stelvio, which is their adventure bike. But more so, this is the Stelvio NTX, which is a bit more adventure-y. It's got spoke wheels and bigger suspension. Normally adventure bikes like this are terrible over bumps. They're 90% road and 10% off-road. It's strange this thing just seems to work. Oh man, it's wonderful. Here we go around the corner and woohoo!
It's especially strange that the Stelvio works so well off-road because it was put together by a bunch of Italians who spend most of their time riding around on silky smooth tar roads in the many hills of Italy. But this bike feels quite at home on the twisty, gravelly bits that us South Africans so adore. It's quite possible that the Italians have begun to think of worlds a little beyond their own borders, and have put together a bike that works on all sorts of condition, both dirt and tar. The Stelvio hasn't strayed from the typical Italian styling that we all love. Some might not call it pretty, but it is striking, and will certainly stand out from the crowds. Of course, this is more than just a play toy. It has its share of serious equipment, like a shaft drive to stay clear of messy chain loop and maintenance. The ABX brakes comes from the brake experts at Brembo, and the front forks come from the famous Mazzocchi factory. The fuel tank holds a massive 32 litres for those long distance riders, while the rear taillight features some flashy Italian design, and the front is adorned with a mean looking retro double headlight. The dash is of course simple and easy to see, and has a 12-volt socket plug for your GPS. The bike also comes standard with a whole list of extras like halogen spotlights, panniers, a bash plate, an adjustable screen, crash bars, hand guards, and for the 4-foot gnomes like me, it has an adjustable seat height. Very often when a bike manufacturer builds a bike that's good on the dirt, they make some heavy sacrifices on the tar handling, especially the front suspension, which often feels like it's made out of sponge cake. But by some act of sorcery, they have managed to build a bike that does both well. In fact, if placed in the right hands, I bet the Stelvio can make some of the superbike boys look silly.
As far as road handling is concerned, again, it weighs 259 kilograms, which isn't the lightest, it isn't the heaviest. It's sort of in between, but like with many of the other bikes that are heavier, they seem to conceal it. They get all the mass and stick it all in the middle, which does that mass centralization thing, which does incredible things for handling. It just seems to do whatever you want it to.
We've ridden it on the road, we've ridden it off-road, we've done all those things, and really it feels good. However, I just get this feeling that people are still going to run off and buy a GS, buy a Super Tenere, buy an Explorer, and somehow overlook this. However, there are going to be the few people, the few hardcore people that are going to buy one of these, and let me tell you something. When you're riding this bike, you're not just a man riding a motorcycle. It's like you're on something alive. You're the little boy from Never Ending Story riding on the back of a giant dog. It's a friend, it's a companion, it's all those kind of things that many of the other bikes just don't get. This is real adventure, what real men should be doing, not sitting in cafes posing. Speaking of cafes and posing, let's go see how Matt's doing.
Well, nice comment, Donovan, but I'm afraid it's the wrong sort of cafe. But I know what you mean. It's difficult not to go anywhere without feeling like you're posing when you've got a bike that's as good looking as this. I mean, it draws attention wherever you go. And just look at the details. I don't know where to start. Well, look at the chrome tank. I mean, it's fantastic, it's gorgeous, but it does occasionally blind you when the sun catches it at the wrong moment. The tank is held on by what looks like leather straps, beautifully put together. We've got clip-ons, really swept back, nice 1970s touch. The clock's classic looking. How about this? Just a normal side cover. This is brushed aluminium. Loving details everywhere. Completely adjustable foot pegs as well. Suspension, okay, right way up forks. They're pretty good, actually. At the back, adjustable bi-tubo shocks. Very tasty indeed. Black heads on the cylinders, and talking about blacked out, look at those wheels. All in all, it's a cracking looking motorbike, and it only weighs in at about 179 kilos. That's without fuel, so it's pretty light, which is a good job because at the heart of it all is traditional layout of Guzzi's V-twin engine, sticking out the bike like that. It makes 50 horsepower, they say, so it ain't no sport bike. Up here at altitude, that probably means it's making, well, if even 40 of those 50 horses are getting through to the back tyre, that's probably a lot. But it doesn't matter for two reasons. The first of which is that of the 40 horses I've ever tried, they're pretty damn fit. And the second reason is that's not what this bike is about. I can't tell you, I don't think I've ever enjoyed doing 100 k's an hour so much in my entire life. The V7 Racer will eventually top out at around 160 k's an hour, but the sweet spot for a bit of energetic riding is in the 100 to 140 kph zone. Though peak torque is a modest 60 newton meters, it seems to be everywhere, from tick over all the way past peak power output at 6,200 RPM. It might not be super fast, but what performance there is easy to access, and that means even an inexperienced rider could get the best from this Guzzi. Handling is predictable and also easy to get along with. The V7 feels light and steers easily, though the basic forks do occasionally kick back over some of our rougher roads. The joy of a country ride on this model is to keep the corner speed up as much as you dare and play at being a 1960s Isle of Man racer. When you do need to brake, the single front disc is adequate, but a solid prod on the rear is advised if you want maximum stopping power. I know bike testing is supposed to be all objective and scientific and other such rubbish, but I can't tell you how long it is since I've been so impressed by a bike I've had to ride for a TV show or a magazine. This thing's really wormed its way into my heart. I want one. And all I have to do to get one is to part with a very reasonable 107,000 rand for the privilege.